TEDxDirigo. The Maine state motto translates from Latin as, I lead. Well, it's true. Maine does lead the nation in energy problems. Our state has the highest dependency on home heating oil, the draftiest housing stock in the nation, some of the greatest need for heating fuel assistance funds. But with no domestic source for that heating oil, 85% of what Mainers pay for it, almost $2 billion, ends up leaving our state's economy each year. Our electricity costs are high and sometimes volatile, and we're frequently told how they're causing Maine businesses to close up shop and putting us at the bottom of business-friendly lists. But then there are the external costs of our energy problems. The burning of fossil fuels has caused the Gulf of Maine to warm faster than almost any other place on the planet, and it's causing our waters to become more acidic. This is putting the livelihoods of thousands of Maine fishermen, their families, and entire community economies at stake. But enough with the doom and gloom. I really like to think of myself as an optimist. So let's think about how Maine can lead the nation when it comes to the solutions to our energy problems. And let's look to some of the state's smallest communities, the islands, for ways how to get it done. Now, don't get me wrong. The islands have their own fair share of energy problems. In fact, some of the islands pay some of the greatest energy costs in the nation. Take tiny Monhegan Island. Known as a pristine retreat for people looking to get away from it all, the island gets 100% of its power from a noisy, polluting diesel power plant and pays the top 20 highest electric rate in the nation. Residents on Cliff Island, just here in Casco Bay, can pay up to $1 more per gallon for heating oil. Imagine how much it ends up costing to heat these drafty old homes, many of which don't have any insulation at all. The increasingly high costs of living on an island, driven in part by these energy costs, is one of the factors that's leading to a decline in population across the islands. At the turn of the last century, there were more than 300 islands with year-round populations in Maine. Now, only 15 remain. The word sustainability takes on a whole new meaning in these places. Like the state, the islands face tremendous challenges, some of which can seem impossible to solve. But when it comes to their energy problems, the islands can and are making great strides. So as the state of Maine tries to figure out how to solve its energy challenges, let's look to the islands as microcosms and see what they can teach us. We need to stop focusing on a technological fix and start investing in people. Even if you're not an energy nerd, you've probably had the experience of scrolling through a social media site and seeing a well-intentioned friend excitedly announce the arrival of a new energy technology that's here to save the day. See-through solar panels in space, and don't forget these tree-shaped wind turbines. Wow, great idea, right? But how much do these things cost? Do they actually work? Who builds these projects? And what about the communities that are going to host these technologies? How do they get to weigh the costs and the benefits? Rarely do the articles get into such complexities, but they should. Because in my experience, solving energy problems is 90% about supporting people and only 10% about a technological fix. My good friends on the islands have taught me that the decision-making process around energy can be challenging. Change is hard, especially on an island, when even small shifts can result in significant impacts. In order to navigate this change, islands need strong leaders, good quality information, and lots of room for public debate. Once a technology is installed, it depends on trained people who can operate it and troubleshoot it when it breaks. Without these investments in people, technologies stand little hope for success. But on an island, this can really be a tall order. Most of Maine's island communities are small. Some dwindle to 50 in the wintertime. So the responsibilities of keeping things running can be big. Electricity and heating fuel issues are generally handled by only a couple of people, very few of whom ever went to school for anything energy related, and few of whom have to do this as their only job. But they're the ones who are expected to keep the lights on and solve these problems. So in order for islands to really be able to tackle their energy problems, we recognized at the Island Institute that we really have to rethink this paradigm. So we're actively supporting islanders to see themselves as leaders, connecting them with technical expertise and relevant information. We're helping communities to create long-term visions for their energy use and providing them with examples of good public process. We're celebrating our successes, and we're investing in the next generation of energy leaders by educating kids and motivating them to take action. In this way, we're helping individuals to make better decisions about technology, and we're helping communities to become far more sustainable than any tree-shaped wind turbine. When you live on an island, you can't forget where your power comes from. When you live on the mainland, you can plug something in and you'll never think about how the energy was generated. But when you live on an island, everyone knows where their power comes from, how much it costs, and who's going to fix it when it breaks. Power plants, transmission cables, distribution lines, they're all a part of an islander's very small backyard. This became abundantly clear to me last month when I had the chance to accompany the Mohegan School on a field trip to Vinyl Haven Island. The Mohegan kids were learning about how islands get their electricity, and they had recently toured their own diesel plant. When they arrived on Vinyl Haven, they had the chance to meet with several different groups of people. But every time, they were asked to explain how their island got their power. Every time, they would respond with the most memorable feature of the plant, its sound. In unison, the little ones to the middle schoolers would respond with a very loud, Power generation is generally not one of the more idyllic parts of an island. It turns out that Vinyl Haven also used to be powered by a diesel plant that operated for decades down on Main Street. The Mohegan kids visited with the Vinyl Haven elders, and the elders explained what it was like growing up with the power plant running all the time, and both groups exchanged their own diesel generator sounds. But did the noise on Vinyl Haven used to bother people? According to one resident, it was a good noise. It was noisy, but it was a good noise, because when it was running, we had lights, we had heat, and nobody complained. We only complained when it went out and everything went black. Things are different on Vinyl Haven now, though. A middle school student explained to me how a submarine cable now connects Vinyl Haven and neighboring North Haven to the mainland to bring power out to the islands. He knew this because he goes lobstering, and even at his young age, he's learned, like all fishermen, you can't set your gear on the cable. But Vinyl Haven's probably most well known for its wind power project. In thinking about the high cost of mainland power and how it was generated, Vinyl Haven teamed up with North Haven to build their own source of power, a community-owned wind project in 2009. The island is a source of pride for many islanders, but it doesn't make everyone happy. Just like the old generator and the submarine cable, islanders don't have the luxury to ignore the presence of the wind turbines. What they sound like, what they look like, who owns them, who's going to fix them when they break. In an age when many of us have been completely removed from the impacts of our daily comforts, islanders are stuck having to deal with these issues head on. It pays to think collectively. When you live 12 miles out on an island, scarcity of certain products and services just becomes an accepted part of life. It can be really hard to get somebody to bring firewood down to the boat or to get a chimney sweep out to the island. But I don't want you to feel bad for islanders. They're actually very smart, practical, resourceful people. They understand in this situation, they just need to organize themselves and go in on it together. So when we started to think about how to lower the cost of heating island homes, it quickly became apparent that it was going to be really hard to get energy auditors to make the trip out. Very few wanted to take the extra time or deal with the incredibly complex logistics of going out there, and if they did, it came at an added cost. But what if the homeowners went in on it together? Since 2012, we've been working with island partners to organize homeowners to line up enough work for an entire week. Our staff handle all the logistics of getting the crews and the equipment out, and homeowners get to see a discount on the price of the services because of the high volume of work. To date, this Weatherization Week project has helped 325 island homes across 11 different communities access affordable efficiency services. Not only are islanders seeing savings in their bills and feeling more comfortable, but weatherization, of course, has now become the talk of the town. As islanders wait in line to get on the ferry, you can overhear them comparing who had the draftiest house as if it was some sort of badge of honor. And then they share what it is that they've done to deal with that. It turns out that you can actually get a lot done when you go in on it together. So we're continuing to use this model. Right now, it's helping to get thousands of high-efficient LED light bulbs delivered to the islands. One island is using the model to help dozens and dozens of homeowners buy discounted heat pumps, drastically reducing that island's dependency on heating oil. But the benefits of this work go far beyond energy savings. Islanders know that when they solve problems collectively and they go help their neighbors in most need, they're building a sense of community. They understand that when they act together, they build more resilient communities. So what if we thought of the state of Maine as if it were an island, with boundaries as distinct as the sea and where we could see inputs and outputs more clearly? All of a sudden, things start to feel small. Before we started fighting about technology, we'd think about people. We'd think about the people who are currently having to make decisions about energy, both in the capital and closer to home, and we'd think about what extra support they might need. Leadership skills, access to good information, a strong public process. And we'd realize that that group is probably too small to be handling such big issues on their own. So we'd invest in strategies that would add to their numbers, strengthen their outcomes, and get more Mainers involved in building a new energy future for our state. When we went home and plugged something in or heated up our houses, we'd be well aware of the source of our energy and whose backyard it was coming from. When new power projects were proposed, we'd recognize that if it's not built right in our backyard, it's just going to be built somewhere else in our island community, so long as we all continue to have an insatiable demand for cheap, reliable power. We'd be well aware of the broader context of our energy choices, and we'd realize how we're causing warming waters, shifting weather trends, and rising seas. We'd understand how we need to start to adapt our economies to be prepared for the shocks ahead, because at this point, the only certainty is change. It would be harder for us to ignore our neighbors, even those who live at the proverbial end of the line. We'd invest in creative strategies to help tighten up leaky old homes in Eastport and New Sweden and make it as easy to do that as it is in our more populated areas of the state. We would always think about those in most need. We'd realize that no man is an island, particularly on an island. Collective action, working together, it would just be how we got stuff done. Because when we work together, when we invest in our neighbors, when we start to think about this global backyard as if it were our own, we can make progress. We can reverse these depressing statistics and we'll serve as a little microcosm of our own. When Maine acts like an island to tackle its energy challenges, I believe that Maine will lead. Thank you.